We are talking today about the performing arts admissions and audition process. If you're here to learn how to make banana splits, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong presentation. We're going to be talking about admissions for performing arts today. So in terms of programs and degrees, this is kind of where we want to start in terms of the process. Because in terms of visual and performing arts programs, it can get confusing. What is a BA program versus a BFA? What is a BS versus a BM? So it starts with a certificate. So I would be kind of careful when you look at certificate programs, because you want to keep in mind, if a school is offering a certificate, that means that they're not offering a degree in that particular program. They could offer both certificates and degrees, but that certificate program is not going to be a college degree at the end of the day. So if you're looking for a program where you have a specific associate's degree or a bachelor's degree from a college, a certificate program is not going to give you that. I also want you to look very closely at the accreditation of schools when you're looking at programs as well, because that could determine your eligibility to get jobs once you graduate if you potentially attend a school that isn't accredited. An associate's degree is going to be a 2-year degree that you get from a college. Now, this 2-year degree, you can then potentially transfer to a 4-year college and get a full bachelor's degree, but the associate's degree is going to be that full 2-year degree. Then we have our Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, and those two programs are going to be more generally based programs. So Bachelor of Arts and Science programs are going to be majors where you are potentially taking up to 40% of your classes outside of your major with those particular programs. Once you get into things that are more specified, like a Bachelor of Music or Bachelor of Fine Arts, BFA program, you're going to be taking more like just 30% or less of your classes outside of your major, because these are pre-professional programs that are really going to be specific to that area of study in the visual performing arts. So these are often referred to BFA programs sometimes as conservatory programs, or BM programs as conservatory programs. So when you're looking at the different names of these, BA and BS, those are going to be more of your liberal arts-based generalized majors, which could get into some real specifics of your program. But then once you get into BM and BFA, typically these are audition-based programs at the conservatory level where you're really delving into that particular field. So what are some different programs that are available in the visual and performing arts? So I'm going to start with art. You'll see quite a few different programs that are available here. And again, this is going to depend school to school, which schools offer which programs. Now, there are some schools that just have, say, a studio art program. And that studio art program could be a BFA, but it will have a focus on a lot of different areas. So it could have a painting component, it could have a photography component, it could have a drawing component. But typically those studio art programs are going to give you a little bit of everything. Whereas there's other programs specifically for things like game design or graphic design, where you're getting into more of the specifics of that particular industry. So definitely look at the names of the programs, because it's going to help you to determine, is this program the right fit for me? Is it too specific, or do I want something that's a little bit more broad? Then you get into dance programs. Now, dance is a little bit different, because with dance, you can have programs that are more BS based, a Bachelor of Science in Dance degree, which is going to be learning more about the study of dance. There is going to be a practical component of that as well. But if you're looking for more of a conservatory style training, then you're going to be looking for a program that's more of a BFA, or specifically a conservatory program. And those programs can specialize in a lot of different areas. So it's important to ask with those dance programs, what do you specialize in? Are you a classically based program? Do you focus mostly on ballet? Or is this a program that you really delve more into other types of dance, such as tap or jazz, or maybe it's a specialty modern program? Or maybe you're looking at a program that really has a strong choreography component, because that's what a lot of their majors go off and do afterwards. So really important questions to ask when you're looking at dance programs. Now, film is a whole different beast in and of itself. You're going to find a lot of film programs out here in California, because obviously this is a big film hub, but you can really do a lot of different things with film. Some programs are going to be film acting specific. Some are going to be film directing specific. And then some are going to be even broader than that, where you're looking at things like filmmaking or film studies. Performing arts management can really apply to any of these fields. So it's important to know when you're looking at a performing arts management program, which area it specializes in. So I used to work for the Chicago College of Performing Arts at Roosevelt University, and their performing arts management program was very, very focused on music management. So they did a little bit of the component of theater, and they did a little bit when it came to arts management, but for the most part, it was really music specific. So it's important to ask those questions as well. And then there aren't just performing arts management programs, there's also art management programs for things like if you want to be able to open up your own art gallery someday. And also art history is a great jumping off point for that as well. Now music, you go down a whole different rabbit hole, because music, you have so many different directions you can go with this. Everything from music business, music technology, contemporary music, jazz music, classical, sound recording. There's so many different directions you can choose. So it's really important to understand the type of music school that you're applying to. Now, some schools actually have a named school of music within their college. Other schools will just have a music program in general. But it's important to know what you're getting yourself into. So colleges like Berkeley, for example, Berkeley has a really strong contemporary music component. Whereas if you're looking at schools like the school I used to work at, the Chicago College of Performing Arts, they're much more classically based, but they do have a jazz component as well. Now, when you get into theater, you'll see quite a few different areas here. Now, you may not believe it, but there actually is at some colleges a major in clowning. That exists. But there's also different majors that you can choose from that are going to live under different bubbles as well. So costume design, for example, they may name that as a major at some schools, but other schools, it's just going to be called technical theater. And then it's going to be a concentration within that. So when you're looking at these different options, don't search costume design. And if it doesn't pop up for a school, just assume that they don't have it. And the same goes for something like potentially acting or even musical theater, because they could be hidden under different headings within that particular school. So if you're looking at theater, my best recommendation would be just to type in theater and then see what pops up in terms of your searches and do some more research beyond that. So in terms of the application process, what's really important to know for pretty much all visual and performing arts programs, especially those that are audition or portfolio based, is that you need to be thinking about the application process earlier as opposed to later. Now, this is a great rule of thumb for college admissions in general, but the reason why it's so important for visual and performing arts admissions is because of that audition and portfolio process. So in most cases, you're not only going to need to apply to the school, but you're also going to need to submit that audition or portfolio. And you need to be able to take the time to fully prepare and understand what you need to do to prepare for that audition or portfolio. So in some cases, you're actually going to have to set up a specific time. And at a lot of these schools, those times fill up very quickly. Some schools have what's called a pre-screen process, which I'll get to in a minute. But all of these things mean that it's going to push back your timeline. So in order to find out and get your college decisions as soon as possible, you really need to be starting that. If you are a senior, and I'm talking to you right now, and you are a senior and you haven't started your application process or audition and portfolio process yet, you really need to start that now. And for juniors, I would say if you can start thinking about it second semester of your junior year or even the summer before your senior year, that's really going to help you out. Now, I do want to talk for a minute about fees. Now, a lot of schools will charge an application fee to apply to the school. So that's to actually apply to the college or university itself, you need to pay an application fee. And in some cases, you can request an application fee waiver. So that's something to certainly ask about. Now, I know at Nazareth College, we don't charge an application fee, so it's not anything that you'll have to worry about. And there's other schools that don't charge an application fee either. But they may charge an audition fee, and it's important to know that these are two separate fees. So the audition fee is something that you have to pay separately, and that's to be able to submit your audition or potentially your portfolio for consideration for that particular program. So just keep in mind that these are typically separate, but there are waivers available potentially for both. Now, the application process for visual and performing arts programs can sometimes get confusing because you're wondering, okay, if I'm applying to Nazareth College, say, but I'm also applying for the musical theater program, and my decision is going to be based off of my audition, how do I know when to apply, when I'm going to hear all of those things? So these are important questions to ask the school. There are some schools where you need to be academically admitted to the university itself before you're admitted to their School of Visual Arts or School of Performing Arts. That's the case, for example, at some place like DePaul University. You have to be academically admitted before they can consider you for their visual and performing arts programs. So you'll actually get 2 acceptance letters from schools like that. Whereas if you're applying to somewhere like Nazareth College, it's a little bit different. For us, yes, you do have to be academically admissible, but we're going to send you your decision all at the same time. So you're going to receive notification of if you've been admitted to the school and your program all in one batch. Now, in some cases, you may hear back from a school that, hey, we've accepted you to the school, but we haven't been able to accept you to your top choice program. So that's something as well to keep in mind when you're looking at those admissions letters when you get. But these are really important questions to ask each school that you're applying to so you understand how the process works at that school. And then there may be other schools that do it a completely different way, where they say, hey, I want you to apply to your performing arts program first, and then we'll look at the academic piece after. So it really just depends school to school. Now, in terms of submitting virtual materials, this is really becoming the norm for most schools. And it's been the norm for quite a few years now, but especially due to COVID, this is becoming kind of the given. So there are a lot of different systems that you can use to submit these sorts of materials. There's one called Get Accepted that's not a typo, that's actually the way that it's spelled. It's ACCEPTD. And that's a very popular one for theater programs that you want to get familiar with. Decision Desk is another one of these sort of submission programs, and this is very popular for music programs. Slide Room is going to be very highly used for our visual arts programs, and that's where you would submit your portfolio details. And then finally, Slate is becoming more and more popular. That's an admissions platform that's becoming more and more popular for submitting these sort of supplemental audition pieces as well. Just keep in mind, though, that when you're submitting these virtual materials, this isn't typically all that you have to do for your portfolio or audition. That's typically just step 1. So don't think, oh, I've submitted my virtual materials, I'm all set, I'm done. Typically, that's not the case. So you'll want to figure out what the next steps are. So in some cases, like for musical theater, you'll submit your virtual materials, but that's just your pre-screen. So there's a lot of schools, because they get so many applications for musical theater and acting programs, that they will pre-screen these, meaning that they will look at these submissions of all of these applicants and determine which they want to invite to specifically do a live audition. Now, obviously live looks a little bit different this year, but what I mean when I say live is synchronous. So you'd actually be meeting like we are right now on Zoom with a faculty member from that school, as opposed to just submitting that recording and having them look at it at a separate time. Now, again, the next step of the process is going to be the audition or interview scheduling. So I've already started to talk about this a little bit. So if you don't have a pre-screen, or if you pass your pre-screen and are then invited to schedule that, every school has a different scheduling system. So you're going to look into that and figure out, okay, do I need to schedule it on their website? And what I would highly recommend, please, 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 if you're auditioning or submitting portfolios to multiple schools, keep a spreadsheet, keep a list, keep a tally of exactly where you are with each school. It's going to help you out so much in the process, so you don't have to keep checking back in your emails and figuring out, oh, which site was I using for this and which one for this. That spreadsheet and list will be incredibly helpful. And then the last step of the process, which is the fabulous step. It's once you get admitted, you hear back from the school, you're excited, you're happy. And then the next step is finding out what you've earned in terms of scholarships, grants, and financial aid. So I don't know how many of you have heard of the FAFSA. I'm not going to go too much into this because I know there's separate sections on financial aid. But you'll fill out the FAFSA, and that's the free application for federal student aid. You'll fill that out, and then that will help to determine what you qualify for in terms of federal grants and loans. But the important thing to know about these visual and performing arts programs is that typically you're looking at being able to earn additional scholarship that is talent-based. So it's going to be based off of your audition or portfolio. So with these scholarships, what's great is there are some schools that are going to offer you both talent-based scholarships and academic-based scholarships on top of that. Typically, if you're looking at more conservatory-based programs, they aren't going to be looking at the academic piece for scholarship consideration. But if you're looking at schools that maybe just have BFA programs, then they are going to offer you both academic-based money and also talent-based money as well. And then there's schools like Nazareth that also happen to offer minor scholarships. So if you decide to minor in something in the visual and performing arts, or you just decide to play in one of our music ensembles, and you submit an audition as part of your audition process, you can be considered for talent-based scholarships as well. Even if you're not a major, you're just minoring, you can still get talent-based scholarships. So it's a great thing to know if your parents are really pushing you towards that biology major, but you really want dance as a part of your life and want to do it either as a double major or a minor, could be a great fit for you. So I do want to talk about some general tips for the visual and performing arts process in general. I think what's really important to keep in mind is that this process is going to take some time and it's going to take some effort. But this is really important because we're talking about your future here. Students that want to go into visual and performing arts programs, I don't think they necessarily realize, and I know a lot of times their parents don't realize, that there is a lot of fantastic jobs and great job security that you can have within the arts. But you have to put in the time to that craft right from day one. And that starts with your admissions process for college. So when you're preparing your monologues, when you're preparing your songs, when you're preparing your portfolio, when you're preparing your audition pieces, make sure you're taking the time to do your research, to understand what pieces are going to be the best fit for each school, to really prepare things that are a good representation of yourself and your level and where you're at. This is really, really important. So it's not going to take you a day or, a few hours to prepare your audition materials and go through this process. It's going to take a while, but that's okay. And there are people out there that can help you with this process, myself included and other admissions counselors included as well. So the second piece, which I already got into, is to do your research. So when you're going and you're auditioning for Juilliard, understand what Juilliard is all about, what they are looking for in their specific program, and how that differs from a program you could be looking at BU or BC, Boston University, Boston College, or Cal State. All of these programs are going to be very different. So understand when you're walking in the room for that audition or when you're walking into the Zoom room, understand what that program is all about, so that if someone asks you a question about that program, why it appeals to you, you have an answer. You can, articulate why that program could be a good fit for you. But remember too, at the end of the day, there is only one of you. Do not try to fit into what you think the box is of what that particular school is looking for. You're looking at a specific arts program and they are completely all about sculpture and you are completely all about drawing. Don't try to fit into that sculpture bubble for that school, because you're going to be trying to fit into a box for 4 years that is not the right fit for you. So be the person that you are when you walk into that room or submit your portfolio or prepare whatever it is that you're preparing, because really they want to get to know who you are. The thing I always like to say too is that this audition or portfolio review or whatever it is, this is as much an interview or audition for us as schools as it is for you. So remember that that school should be treating you with respect. They should be treating you like they want you to be there, like they want you to succeed. And if this school is not giving you the time of day, chances are they're not the right place for you, because that's how you're going to feel for the next 4 years. You deserve to be treated well, and you deserve a program that's the right fit for you. And so guess what? We are rooting for you in the room. For the most part, unless it's really just someone's having a terrible day or it's a school that just really just has way too much pride, then at the end of the day, we want you to do well. So when you walk into that room, remember that we're rooting for you. We're on your side. Just because we're on the other side of the table doesn't mean that we don't want you to do well. So take that focus off of yourself and put it back on the people in the room. Think about, okay, I'm going into a field where I'm creating something that I want to be able to give someone a feeling when they walk out. Whatever piece of music I'm playing or whatever portfolio piece I put together, I want this person to have a reaction. So make it about them. Make it about the person on the other side of the table. And I promise you, it'll make you feel so much better and so much less nervous when you're going through the process. And then very, very, very importantly, treat every single person that you come across in your college process in general with respect and consideration, because you never know who is making that final decision and who is a part of that final decision. So from the cleaning professional that is there when you walk into the room, to the person who checks you in, to the student ambassador who takes you around campus, to the random face that you see on the Zoom meeting, welcoming everyone to your virtual audition. Make sure that every person smile at every person. Make sure that they feel that you are supporting them, that you are appreciative of them. That will go miles in the process. So I'm going to get now into some of the specifics of portfolios. I'm just going to check my time here to make sure I'm doing okay. Looks like I am. Great. So let's get into some of the portfolio tips for things like art, film, and technical theater. So what's really important is that you read the requirements very, very carefully. And then when you're thinking about what you want to submit for that portfolio, just remember that class projects are very similar school to school. So chances are a class project that someone's done at Vista High School is going to be very similar to a class project that's probably been done down the road at, say, Independence High School. So just keep that in mind, that when you're thinking about including work from class projects, I would put it at a maximum of submitting 1 to 2 of those. Also, when you're submitting photos of your work, when you're actually taking the pictures, so say that you're not actually doing photography, but you're doing something that's a sculpture, or you're taking a picture of an art installation that you've done. Think about the lighting in the room, how it's going to capture that particular piece, just because we want it to look as similar as possible to how it would look in real life. So really consider those pieces when you're setting things up and taking photos of things for your portfolio. It's also really important that you seek the advice of people that you trust. So teachers, directors, people that you've worked with on these particular projects. It could be your technical theater person. It could be your film teacher at your school. Just make sure that you're asking them for feedback on your portfolio, because they may have thought of something that you may not have thought of. Doesn't mean that if you have your absolute favorite work and one person says don't include that you shouldn't include that. But really take back this feedback from these different individuals. And if you can, I'm going to talk about this at the end, but attend a portfolio review day, because this is a great chance for you to be able to get feedback from actual professors that will be reviewing your portfolio before you submit your portfolio. And then please, please be prepared, because even though you're an artist, you may think, well, this is my artwork. It stands for itself. I don't need to talk about it. Oh, yes, you do. Absolutely, you do. You need to be prepared to answer the question, why? Why this piece? Why? Where did this come from? Where is this vision, et cetera, et cetera. You need to be able to explain your work. And so that's very important. So practice doing that. Even if you aren't the most eloquent person in the world, write it down. Figure out why it is that these pieces are important to you, where this particular piece came from. Trust me, trust me, trust me, it will help you a lot in the process. And then be prepared also to talk about what your voice is, how you see the world, and make sure that the pieces that you submit are in line with this vision that you've created for yourself, whether it be an art portfolio, a film portfolio, or a theater portfolio. So let's get now into dance with our dancers. So what's important to know is that a lot of dance auditions, you're going to have a pretty common format. And that format's going to be that you do some sort of typically warm-up type of thing, which usually has some sort of ballet combination in it, because ballet is the foundation of most forms of dance, and most dance teachers want to see that you at least have a foundation in ballet. Then typically you are going to do some sort of led piece that either you've been able to prepare some for in advance, or maybe that you haven't been able to prepare for. And so there's typically going to be an instructor or the dance teacher or potentially your auditioner that's going to lead you through a sequence. And it could be a jazz sequence, it could be a modern sequence. It really depends on the program that you're applying to. So you'll need to show that. So essentially that's helping us to determine how quickly you pick up choreography. And then the final piece is that typically you do have to prepare a solo for that. Now for that solo, I'm going to jump now to my 5th bullet. For your solo, please make sure that if you are submitting a video of that, that it is as close as possible so that we understand and can really see your movement as a dancer. But also, if it's not clear to us which dancer is you, please make sure you indicate that somewhere. It's really important that we know which dancer you are. But also with that solo, I would really, I would advise you against choreographing your own solo. Unless specifically you are going for a program that is judging you based off of your choreography. Because if you're looking at a program that is just dance-based, you want to make sure that they are judging you on your dance and not on your choreography. So I would highly recommend having your dance teacher, someone else, a choreographer in the area, do that choreography for you and then perform that, because then you're not worrying about doing both things. Now, obviously, stretching is very important. I know it seems like a silly thing to say, but you'd be surprised how many people forget to do that before their dance audition. Make sure that you have water with you, because there's no guarantee that if you do go to an in-person audition, they're going to have a water fountain really close by. And then make sure you are arriving extra prepared. Make sure that you have extra shoes, extra clothes, extra audition materials. Make sure you're testing your music in advance. Make sure to confirm what sort of technology they have. So when you bring it, you're not fumbling around with it and, oh my goodness, I don't have this cord and what am I going to do? Make sure you understand the requirements of each school. And then I cannot stress this enough. Remember what I was saying about being nice to everyone and keeping that in mind? Well, this could not be more important than it is in those group dance classes. Having a positive attitude, being a team player, helping people out, all of those things are going to go a long, long way in that group dance class. So just remember, they are as much looking at your attitude in that as your ability to pick up the choreography. So music. All right, so we got 2 more. We got music and we have theater. So for music, again, getting back to the water and the warm-up, so important. Even if you're a cellist and you think, well, not a big deal, I don't really need water. Trust me, you are going to get dry in the room. It's going to be distracting you. Just bring water with you and make sure that you're warming up ahead of time as well. Again, with arriving extra prepared, extra sheet music. Make sure that you understand and know what tempo to be asking your accompanist, if you have an accompanist, to play in. Make sure you have extras of everything that you need for your instrument. So if that's extra reeds, make sure you have the extra reeds with you. Make sure you have all of those extra pieces prepared ahead of time. Please prepare for the weather as well. There's nothing worse than getting to New York City in the middle of winter and realizing that you brought your cello and have to figure out a way to get, I used to play cello, so this is why I'm saying this, realizing that you have to get your cello across the city, and how the heck are you going to do that in a snowstorm? So please prepare ahead of time for those sorts of things. Make sure you have the proper case for your instrument. Make sure that you have the proper transportation you need to get wherever you're going. It'll be really, really helpful, and then you won't have to stress as much on the day. Again, this is all kind of in a post-COVID world. So for those of you that are auditioning virtually this year, you won't have to worry about these little things, but in the future you may. So that's why I'm going over them. Make sure that you breathe before you start. This is really important, especially for our vocalists and our wind instrument, anyone who's playing any sort of wind or brass instrument. Make sure that you take a deep breath before you start to calm yourself, and also make sure that you have the proper breath support. Please don't stop in the middle if you do mess up. It's something that if you stop in the middle, you will kind of ruin your whole flow. There's a chance that the faculty won't notice. And if they do notice, it'll just show them that you've been able to push through and continue. So if you mess up, don't stop. If you do absolutely have to stop, if you're just way too lost, don't apologize. Just take a breath, give yourself a minute, and start from where you left off. Make sure you're practicing sight reading and scales, because that is going to be something that they ask you for. So absolutely make sure you practice that in advance. And then just remember that music theory for both things like musical theater and music is going to be something that most schools ask for. Now, typically, this is not something that they actually are going to evaluate as part of the admissions process. So they're not going to say, well, you have to have this specific level of music theory in order to get admitted to the school. In some cases they will, but most cases they won't. But for music theory, it's really important that you prepare in advance so that you just kind of refresh your memory, because when you take that music theory exam, even though it's not evaluative, it is going to place you in whatever level of music theory you're at when you start at that school. So if you don't kind of brush up, then you could end up in music theory 1 and absolutely bored. I'm sorry, for a semester, when really you could have been music theory 2. Excuse me. Quick drink break. If you need to stretch, whatever you need to do, get a drink yourself. Okay, awesome, we're good to go. So, theater audition tips. Again, stressing this once more, this has been a theme throughout my presentation. Please, please, please be respectful and nice to everyone. Again, I used to work theater conservatory admissions at the Chicago College of Performing Arts. I work theater conservatory admissions now at Nazareth College. I cannot tell you the amount of people who have walked in and have just been so frazzled that they are just incredibly rude to me, or rude to a student, or potentially even rude to a faculty member. This is not acceptable. It will impact your admissions decision. Just keep that in mind, please. Headshot and resume. So nowadays, there are many schools that are not asking you to have a physical headshot and resume. Please look this up about your school before you go off and print a million headshots and resumes and have these made. Also, theater students, please, please, please don't worry about getting an expensive professional headshot. This is just not required and not necessary at the high school level. When you're applying for these programs, your school picture will do. Somebody taking a picture of you on their iPhone will do. It's really not a big deal. So don't feel like you have to make that headshot super professional. That's something you're going to spend plenty of money on it later in life when you get into the actual field. So don't worry about that now. Again, with being extra prepared. So if the school asks you to prepare 2 monologues and 2 songs, make sure that you are preparing 3 monologues and 3 songs, so that there are choices for those auditioners to get from you, or even 4 monologues and 4 songs, just so you have something in your back pocket. And then again, bring that extra sheet music with you, bring that extra accompaniment with you, all of those things. Bring extra clothes, bring a change of clothes, bring a change of shoes. If you're in musical theater, you're going to need to change. You're going to have something different that you're going to wear for your audition as what you wear for your dance call. So keep that in mind. And then every school is different. Some schools are going to require you to have sheet music. Other schools are going to ask you to bring recorded accompaniment. So please, again, bring both, because it could change on the day. Water, warm up, stretch, said it already. And then learn for yourself. This is really important, and something that, as an actress, because I was an actress for years, it was really important for me to learn what you need yourself to be in the right headspace for your audition, and do whatever that is. So for me, I had a series of warm-ups that I went through that really helped me to get in a place where I could be really successful and be kind of where I needed to be mentally to do well in my auditions. If that's honestly just chatting with other people around because that's the thing that calms you, great. If it's going to the Starbucks down the road and grabbing your regular coffee, awesome, do that. It's whatever works best for you. But just remember and respect that everybody else is going to be doing what works best for them as well. So if you go to talk with someone and you're really chatty and they don't respond to you, don't necessarily judge them for that. That's just their way and what they need to do to get in their proper headspace. Song and monologue selection, so important for theater. Because there are so many students that will choose songs or monologues that are just not appropriate for them. I cannot stress enough that your song and monologue selection needs to be reflective of your age. Do not choose to play someone who is 60 or 70 years old unless you are 60 or 70 years old. That is not going to work in your favor in any circumstance, even if you love the play, even if you love the character, even if you think it's going to prove what a fantastic actor you are. Don't do it. Make sure that the song or monologue is from a play or from a musical. Do not choose something that is from television or from a movie unless you are specifically applying to an acting for the camera program. Please avoid monologue and audition books or song books because these pieces are incredibly overdone and there will be a million other students at the auditions that will be doing the exact same pieces. Plus, if you haven't read the play or seen the musical that the particular thing that you're doing is from, you're not going to have any context behind it. So that's really important as well. Please don't push the time limits. It'll just make you nervous. So if you've been told that you have to do a 32 bar cut, don't do 33 bars, just do 32. If you've been told that you need to do a 2-minute monologue, do a 2-minute monologue. If anything, make it, a minute and 45 seconds. Don't try to push it and rush through it, because on that day, you're just going to be nervous about making it through in time. So don't push the limits, make it shorter if you can, just follow those guidelines. And again, similarly to what I talked about with art, be prepared to listen, be prepared to take direction, and also talk about yourself and the school. This is what I was talking about earlier about doing your research. So if you're looking at a specific program, just checking my time, got 5 minutes. If you're looking at a specific program that is, a conservatory-based program, you don't want to go in there talking about how you really want to do a BA program and how you really want a little bit of everything in that particular program, because they're going to be like, wait a minute, we have a BFA and it's very specific and it's only musical theater and you're not going to be doing anything in the costume shop. So make sure, again, that you are listening, you understand which school you're walking into and what audition room you're walking into. So I have a couple more slides and then I'm going to wrap things up and we'll do some Q&A. So I do want to talk about some resources. Please feel free to kind of take a shot of this on your iPhone or whatever you need to do to get these. But these are actually helpful tips that we have on our Nazareth website about how to ace your audition or portfolio review. Now, these are specific to Nazareth, but they're really, really great things because they can be kind of applicable to any program that you're looking at. So we have one for art, dance, music, musical theater, and also theater design and technology. These are straight from the mouths of our faculty members. So this is exactly what they're looking for in the process. So hopefully that'll be helpful for you as you continue to think about how you're going to put that portfolio together or what you're going to prepare for your audition material. And then a couple more helpful resources. One I already kind of referenced quickly, but it's the National Portfolio Day. This is something that is going to be happening virtually this year, but typically it's something that happens. We have all different sorts of live dates across the country. And it says Portfolio Day, but there's actually multiple days. And this is the opportunity, if you're an art student, to be able to have, again, an art faculty member from a school that you're looking at take a look at your portfolio and give you some feedback on that about what they're looking for and how your portfolio stacks up before you actually have to submit that to the school. Second, National Performing Arts College Fairs. These are typically run by NACAC. They're called the NACAC PVA Fairs, the Performing and Visual Arts Fairs. But this year, because NACAC is doing all of their fairs virtually, they aren't offering virtual PVAs. So Music Admissions Roundtable has stepped in and they are going to be offering quite a few different PVA fairs this year. And it's that top link there that you can click on. And you'll be able to meet with representatives like me from multiple different performing arts programs across the country. And then finally, that last link, this is not as relevant for this year, but will be relevant in other years. For those of you that are interested in theater programs and auditioning for theater programs, unified auditions take place in Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles every single year. And this is a great opportunity to be able to audition for multiple schools over the course of a few days in the same place, rather than having to travel individually to each one of these schools. So for example, these do take place in Los Angeles, and you'll have schools from across the country that are showing up. You do have to still make individual appointments with each school, but you can get these all done, say, in a couple days, as opposed to having to spend the money to travel to all these different schools. So I just want to leave you with my contact information in case you do have any questions. I really enjoyed chatting about all of this. As you can tell, I'm really passionate about visual and performing arts admissions. It's what I've been doing for the past 10 years. I absolutely love that as a performer, I'm able to take what I've learned in my years of admissions and also my years of performing, and kind of give that knowledge back to you as students and help you through the process, because I wish I had had someone to kind of hold my hand through the whole process, tell me what the difference is between a BA and a BFA. So any questions you have, that's my email address right there, sgibson2@naz.edu. Again, I'm an Associate Director of Admissions at Nazareth College, which is in Rochester, New York. So definitely check us out if you have any questions.